Hello and welcome back to Talking Giants. Today is April 3rd, 2026, and this is the Jeremiyah Love mock draft. Have a new idea this year for draft month where Shaun and I, once or even twice a week, depending on how the weeks are stacking up and as we get closer to draft day and night one of the NFL draft, let's go through a couple different mock drafts where we are already predetermined what we are doing at pick 5. So the whole strategy is, how does the rest of the draft play out for both of us, knowing what we get in round 1, and especially knowing that the Giants still have a good amount of needs and a good amount of holes to plug up. So Shaun, today, this is going to be the Jeremiyah Love version of a Giants mock draft. How are you doing, my man? Happy Friday, and I'm seeing you twice a week.
Yeah, this is great. It's great. We're in a good flow here, and as, look, any of the loyal listeners know, draft months, it is, I think, the most important month. You could argue about, like, the regular season, hopefully eventually playoff football, but we know the games come and go. This is the month where you grind, right? I've had a lot of fun the last 2 weeks, kind of really sinking my teeth into the prospects that you can sink your teeth into and kind of scouring the board even beyond round 1. I'm pumped up for it, Justin. I can't wait. I love these 3 weeks. I've long been a proponent of loving the NFL draft. I'm a college football guy. I love that, even though a lot of the Northeast doesn't necessarily love it. And this is part of the fun, man. I envy this, man. As a former Talking Giants listener for all those years, it was arguably the month I listened to the most.
I know, and I'm embracing mock drafts more. I am.
Yeah.
I'm embracing mock drafts more.
Yeah, what? Look, here's what I've learned. If I enjoy reading mock drafts while also bashing mock drafts, who am I to pretend I don't like listening to them either?
Right. So this is also presented by the Fanatics Sportsbook. I forget if I said that at the top. Regardless, I love Fanatics. I'm very thankful for them. Before we get into it, where we know who the 5th pick is, it's Jeremiyah Love.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into this, Shaun, are there any kind of, as you were going through this, because we both use the same mock draft simulator, we both use the NFL mock draft database, who I go to them all the time because they have the consensus big board. And I love the consensus big board because, I honestly think, I don't know how accurate the big board is, but the fact that you have so many different draft analysts and so many people that are smart and so many people that do this year round and so many people that are smart just with football, the fact that all of that is just included in one board. I mean, it's, the tale is old. The phrase is old as time of, a million brains is better than one. 2 brains is better than one. So I that's a good site. I kind of want to experiment. What is going on? I kind of want to experiment and change maybe different sites every week. The fact that the Draft Network mock draft site is back is kind of clutch. But what are some things that you learned going through this exercise? Because this was my first mock draft, and I have some things that I learned.
The main thing is just, I think we know it, but seeing it unfold in front of me, it feels like we're just going to have an insane run of offensive linemen in the first round at some point here, probably in the mid rounds. That's what I kept stumbling on. So, which again, I know this is the Jeremiyah Love mock draft, and I know that there's value of the offensive line, which we will get into in terms of maybe some project guys on day 3. But if that's a position you want the Giants to attack, you might be team trade down, which, again, we're not doing here today. But overall, it feels like that is going to be the position du jour that kind of, with a lack of quarterbacks going, I think it's going to be loaded with offensive linemen here, Justin, in the first round. That's kind of the main takeaway for me, at least. Yeah,
and one of my main takeaways, again, which you actually do this, by the way. You said no team trade down. We're not trading down from 5, but you did trade down with your second round pick.
I did, and I made the formula, as we like to say, the old Jimmy Johnson, all the points. We had to make that work. Yes, I will reveal the team, I will reveal the reasoning, and I will reveal why I believe it's important.
I struggled with pick 105 because so many players that I like, so many players that I would be good and feel like good taking, they kind of all went off the board in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And
Which is why not having a third rounder, Justin. So not to interrupt, but that's important.
I struggled with 105. I wound up getting a player that I really like, but I wanted to go different options and maybe even go with a different position. I struggled with pick 105 because the players that were kind of projected to go in that area, I'm like, I like this player, but not at the value of 105. I maybe like him a little bit later. So
now with the value, were you trying to best mesh need versus value? Did you feel like you reached at any point for a need, or did you just strictly go off, man, this is the best player, I'm not even thinking about it?
I mean, at this point, I'm also going with players that I'm very familiar with. So I am more or less familiar with players at the Senior Bowl. And then this is more or less a personal thing, but I like to reveal, I don't consider myself a draft expert, but I like to talk about the way that I watch or the way that we all watch, because I feel like it changes on a year-to-year basis, because ultimately you learn certain things. I sometimes have a Senior Bowl bias, but man, like, you go up and down the board, and the amount of guys that I watched in Mobile that are living in that day 2 to day 3 range. I mean, they're ubiquitous, Shaun. They're everywhere. So it honestly, I feel like it's given me a big leg up this year, but I tried to all right, I'm going to try and just find guys that maybe catch my eye that aren't just Senior Bowl guys. But I will say this mock draft for me is mostly Senior Bowl dominant.
Okay. First of all, that makes a lot of sense. Especially in those rounds. Here's the other question I have for you that I do not know, because you and I did not discuss this. I know I also looked into, let's say I had a pool of 3 or 4 guys per round that, based on the mock draft simulator, were available. I try to think of this not necessarily from the lens of fully what I want, but how I think based on the messaging and the approach John Harbaugh would think. So I kind of threw away the Joe Schoen drafts of past. I know the scouts are already there, but I looked for little things, right? Like tiebreakers. When somebody clearly is just a work ethic guy, loves football guy, I might have rated them a little higher, which I'll get to in some of this. But I tried to put this through more of a Harbaugh lens and less of a Joe Schoen and the Giants' current scouting department lens.
Yeah, and I don't really know Harbaugh at this point, right? I'm
only going based off his words, actions, all of that. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Right, and ultimately, I think everybody will say that, Shaun. But at this point, where we have picked up on all these things about Joe Schoen, and I think I'm still going to do this until proven otherwise. It got to a point with Joe Schoen after that first year, and especially after that second draft, where you just looked at their top 30 list, and they're like, oh, they legitimately just drafted everybody that they had a top 30 visit with. So then why this fan base and why we all became so good at predicting who they were going to draft is because we would all just study the hell out of the top 30 list, all the guys that appeared on that top 30 list, even including a Trey Hawkins.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this guy from a small school from Old Dominion.
Right. Why did they look at him in a top 30? Right.
Well, lo and behold, they drafted him in the 6th round. So, we kind of started to nail Joe Schoen and, kind of learn him like the back of our hands. And now that's going to be completely different. You would think. I would think and presume that now that is probably going to be, at least in some ways, pretty different. So.
You would imagine, unless we get there and it's all top 30 guys and we look back and go, maybe Joe Schoen does have a bigger hand than we thought all along. We're going to find out a lot about Joe Schoen in the next 3 weeks, to be honest with you, in his role.
And also, I know the sexy thing to say, and maybe even the sexy thing to think, is that Schoen is neutered, and this is more or less a Harbaugh and Dawn Aponte show. I get that, but also Harbaugh has how much time now, especially now after picking a coaching staff and free agency, now has how long to go through an entire draft class and to watch players and formulate an opinion. So that's what you're going to have to lean on, the opinion of Joe Schoen, the opinion of his team, and the people that he's got doing it too. Harbaugh's going to have to lean on that in some way. So
yeah, no doubt about it.
So
let's get juice in here, Justin.
Let's get juice in here, man. And let's start off with Jeremiyah Love. And I do not want this to be, should we take Jeremiyah Love or should we not take Jeremiyah Love? I don't want this mock draft and this kind of to be about that.
No, the purpose is for this purpose, they are taking Jeremiyah Love.
Yes.
So let's actually talk about the player.
Yes. So Jeremiyah Love, 6 foot, 212 pounds. He's going to be 21 by the time the season starts. He's a pretty good player. 2025 finished 3rd in the Heisman voting, 21 total touchdowns, 18 of them rushing, 6.9 yards per attempt. Sex number the last 2 years, actually 6.9 yards per attempt, which is nuts. 199 attempts this year, 1,372 rushing yards. That's 114.3 yards per game, folks. 73rd percentile in a 10-yard split, and then his 40-yard dash was in the 97th percentile. He has never fumbled on 356 career touches.
Which I think is his best trait.
Yeah, I mean, he's a special player, man. Has never anticipates and avoids backfield traffic. I think that's like the number one thing about Jeremiyah Love, without making this like a full-on scouting report. I think the number one thing about him is He baits linebackers and second-level defenders into getting themselves caught up in traffic so he can stick his foot in the ground and then just go.
But also does that in a way where he doesn't dance.
Yes. It's almost like watching Le'Veon Bell on 2x speed.
Oh, I like that.
Where it's nothing taken away from Le'Veon Bell. It was just very different. But it's almost just watching what he did, and what made him great was baiting linebackers, baiting these second-level defenders into, all right, you're going to go here, you're going to go here, you're going to get yourself into trouble. But nope, you're going to get them all muddied up, stick your foot in the ground, and then go. I have 3 words here, Shaun. I have pat, pat, pat. He kind of very, very quickly.
Very Chris Berman of you.
Very quickly, pitter, patter, go. Pat, 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 go. Yeah. Pat, 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 go. And he is just so good at setting up defenders like that, where I think he is so smart, it almost looks like he sees holes and paths before they're even there. And
yeah, like he's in a virtual reality game, right?
Yes.
Like it's like ahead of time. I agree with you. That
he's
is his
wearing a VR headset. Yeah, that's really funny. Where it's like he runs it and he goes through it, and then you see it's like, oh shit. Well, that's how he did that. He literally set that up and made it happen. He was 4th in the nation in yards after contact per attempt, 3rd in runs of 10+ yards, 3rd highest in breakaway rate in the nation. Shaun, I mean, he's a really, really good player.
Really dynamic player. And I know we're not debating, again, like you said, but I'm going to point out the 2 negatives that stand out to me because I think that's only fair.
Yeah, please.
When doing this with number 5. Here's the number 1. He plays through them, but man, Jeremiyah Love gets banged up a lot at Notre Dame. Various leg injuries, the rib injuries. Jeremiyah Love has had a lot of moments where he's missing a quarter here, doing that. Now he makes up for it because he comes back. So you can look at it on one hand, it's a positive. He's tough as hell. He doesn't miss games like other running backs would, at least a lot. But he has been banged up quite a bunch at Notre Dame. That would be like kind of my number 1 worry. The number 2 worry would be, and part of this kind of parlays into maybe him playing through some injury. Look, it's always a debate. It's why Notre Dame did not make the college football playoff this year. But the competition, right? The big time games on Notre Dame's schedule the last couple of years have been few and far between. And when they did make that college football playoff and have the run, and the competition stiffened a little bit, Jeremiyah Love's stat production went down a touch. So I do have to just acknowledge that as you get to the NFL level, obviously the competition is going to be higher than Notre Dame playing Purdue on a Saturday afternoon on NBC, but that goes for every college.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame's not in the SEC. Notre Dame's not in the Big Ten. They occasionally play teams like that. When they did, suddenly his production did come down a little bit. It also coincided with being banged up in that playoff run. I feel like that's only fair when talking about it. That would worry me slightly, but it pops on tape. It just does.
I think he fits kind of any kind of offense too. I did like that, like a lot of his kind of big plays, they do come out of the shotgun. Notoriously, that is how this Giants offense has run. They have run out of the shotgun over the last 2 years. That is how they've been a successful rushing offense. We've broken down those splits plenty of times on this show before. Cam Scatterboot, Tyron Tracy the last 2 years, and especially both of them in 2025. Were much better yards per carry wise out of the shotgun compared to under center. But I don't think Jeremiyah Love is limited to out of the shotgun. Like I think if the Giants and if Harbaugh is going to be here, Nagy's going to be here. They did go a little bit more under center with 12 personnel. We have the tight ends to do it. We have the personnel to run bigger, right? The offense is now bigger, especially with a guy like Patrick Ricard. I don't think Jeremiyah Love is limited to just doing stuff out of the shotgun, even though that is what he did at Notre Dame.
No, I'm completely with you. And again, we don't fully know what the vision is going to be with Jackson Dart under center and in the shotgun. But regardless, your point is taken. It's versatile either way.
James Foster, I love him. He's probably one of my favorite draft analysts right now. His comparison is DeMarco Murray.
Okay. I mean, DeMarco Murray at his peak was really, really good with the Dallas Cowboys. I didn't mean to have the okay, but put it this way. If I'm taking him at 5, I would expect a little more than DeMarco Murray.
So where would you have him kind of ranked in terms of some of the other running backs for the last couple of years, like Genty?
I think he's better than Genty.
You think he's better than Genty?
I do think he's better than Genty. I do after watching both. And I got to be fair. I also didn't love Genty last year the way everybody else did. And I know the offensive line was atrocious with the Raiders and that hurt him and could be there. I think Bijan is better though coming out.
Yeah, I think Bijan and Genty are better prospects. The crazy thing is Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, somehow looks better as an NFL player than a prospect.
He does. He does. I thought it was a I mean, look, I always feel this way the first round, but I thought it was a reach where he went in the first round specifically. But you're right. He's popped way more in the NFL.
Yeah.
But his speed just plays, and Dan Campbell acknowledged that.
Yeah, so that's how I would rank him. Interesting
that you like. Okay. I mean, maybe I didn't realize last year we didn't do a lot of draft stuff together. I didn't realize you were a Genty stan. I was not.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think even for what it's worth, for what that Raiders situation was last year, I thought Genty did well with that. But neither here nor there. Jeremiyah Love's sick man. And again, I think the major, again, without giving like a full scouting report and sitting here and kind of just reading reports, the big thing with him is how he just sets plays up himself and what he can do behind the line to get, like, I think you have to be so disciplined as a linebacker to be like, I'm not going to fall for this shit. I need to see what he's seeing before it actually comes true.
Well, he's seeing what he's seeing before it actually comes true.
Right. No. And I hope that made sense, but
it did. I saw what you were putting out there, Justin.
I can't deny that. Even though I may not want it, I can't deny that it may be cool.
Well, again, this doesn't have to be long form. The reason it's a debate is nobody thinks he's a bad player. Nobody thinks he can't help the team. So I think that's totally fine. Even if you don't want it, you can't. The reason he'd be taken is because he's clearly that special a prospect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Nobody say, if anybody doesn't want it, isn't saying that he sucks. That's for sure.
Not like the best receiver, but I think he's a weapon out of the backfield. And I think we made that distinction with Barkley, right? Weapon out of the backfield, yes. Awesome, polished receiving running back, no. At least I don't think so. And I think he's solid as a pass blocker as well, where I'm not like concerned about him on third down. I think he could be a 3-down back right from the get-go and right from the jump.
Totally agree. Cool. No, it's true. I can't add on more to that. That's true.
All right, before we get back to the show, today's episode is brought to you by GLD. All right, fellas, let's talk about upgrading your look for a second. If you've ever tried buying men's jewelry, you know it's either overpriced or it just doesn't hold up, and that's where GLD really stands out. They've built a reputation for high-quality pieces that are designed to last. Everything is waterproof, sweatproof, and backed by a lifetime guarantee. You're getting clean design, strong materials, and attention to detail without paying those crazy retail markups. What's also great is the range. They've got chains, pendants, rings, watches, and even officially licensed pieces with leagues like the NFL, so you can rep your team or style however you want. And no matter your budget, there are options that still look and feel premium. Work hard and change the game. For a limited time only, new customers are getting an insane deal. Use code GIANTS to get 40% off at GLD.com. That's 40% off with code GIANTS at GLD.com. After your purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Thank you, GLD.
All right, Shaun, I want you to go first because I think your second round and how you chose to go about it is definitely a lot more complicated than myself.
Yeah, and look, and I understand for listeners trying to follow this could get convoluted. I'm really just trying to streamline this. Here's my basic premise, okay? We've taken Jeremiyah Love.
Yeah.
That's happened. We could yell and scream till the cows come home, or you could celebrate it till the cows come home. But to me, because the Giants do not have a third-round pick, they only have the 2 top 100 picks, yada, yada, we've pounded this into the grass. I think once you commit to taking a running back 5th overall, even as special as Jeremiyah Love, and you have as many holes as the Giants, you cannot afford to walk away with the rest of this draft with Jeremiyah Love and only one other top 100 pick. That's just my belief. That's my premise. I think when you're allocating a resource like that at running back, that to me at a bare minimum has to happen.
I think that's with any opportunity they have to trade back from 37 to acquire. It may not be another top 100 pick, as we went through last episode, where I went through some of the most recent trade packages, and it's like it would be like a 10, a 106, or a 110, or even like a 120. If you want to trade back from 37 to, let's say, 45 and stay in that similar range, I don't think you're going to acquire another top 100 pick. But still, even with that in mind, Shaun, I even think regardless of what they do at 5, if they don't trade back from 5, that should be what they look to do, regardless, even if it's Jeremiyah Love at 5, or even if it's not Jeremiyah Love at 5.
I agree wholeheartedly on the premise, but I'm going like above and beyond when you take Jeremiyah Love. Figure it out. It has to be done. Now, where I think the Giants are going to benefit, and this is why I did this at pick 37, is the way this draft and the way the mock draft simulator ran with a lot of those offensive linemen. I think you're going to have tantalizing players at the top of the second round. So much so that we're going to wake up on that Friday and go, oh my God, this guy fell out of the first round. Insert name here. This would make so much sense. Again, the problem is, though, you could be talking about wide receiver. The guy I'm going to bring up here is Casey Concepcion, who I actually love from Texas A&M. When looking at trading down and playing that and trying to get another top 100 pick, I had to play the game. Who makes sense? Who would look for these type of players? What kind of players am I punting on? I went back to Joe Schoen trying to show John Harbaugh, hey, I can make this happen for you by calling old friend Dan Morgan with the Carolina Panthers. And we go back to that Brian Burns trade. And let's be honest, did everybody kind of think that while Joe Schoen took his slings and arrows, I think the other biggest moron that came out of that show was Dan Morgan in Carolina and how he basically just got walked all over by Joe Schoen, if you remember that. Do you remember that?
So didn't they take the running back from Texas who has been hurt, and they drafted him coming off of an ACL.
Right. They're a mess. Anyway, Carolina Panthers could not score points last year, but they did have the offensive rookie of the year in Ted McMillan. That is all they had production-wise. So I am dangling Casey Concepcion and Dan Morgan's face here, and this is what I have cooked up, and this is what the points chart has had. I'm sending pick 37. I'm also sending pick 193. Now, the real true points value would have 186 matching up a little better than that, but I'm going to play the game Joe Schoen walks Dan Morgan a little bit and send our last pick in the 6th round, pick 193 and pick 37. We're off by about 8 points or so, Justin, but that could be finagled, as you know. The Giants then in turn get Carolina's later 2nd round pick. We're going to fall back 14 spots to pick 51, and we get pick 83 in the 3rd round out of this. And the point value, as I said, is off by about 8 points, but again, not everything is going to be perfect. So we are back in the 3rd round, but we're sliding back in the 2nd round. Carolina takes Concepcion. They're happy. They have a pairing with Ted McMillan. We're not doing a Panther podcast. They cancel their podcast. With that pick, Justin, I start thinking about the trenches. And while a couple of the D tackles that we've talked about last week are off the board, or 2 weeks ago, I'm losing track of the weeks, I'm going with Lee Hunter on that great Texas Tech defense. Formerly, obviously, a red shirt at Auburn, a UCF player. He's a 2-gapping nose tackle. He can play all over the place. He doesn't necessarily have to play solely nose. He is a pocket pusher, but also he eats space, and he loves football. Senior at this point, was a leader on what was a awesome defense last year. And I'm looking for a guy that can either spare Dexter Lawrence in the nose or play next to him in obvious run-stopping downs. Lee Hunter, Texas Tech, jumps on tape for me as somebody that would fit at pick 51.
Yeah, dude, I love Lee Hunter. And it's, hey, you can't control the simulator. Shaun can't control the simulator. I'm shocked that he lasted to pick 51. And I'm hey, I don't think he's going to, but if he does and the Giants are in that spot and they're able to recoup another top 100 pick, I mean, man, sign me up for that, because he's 48th. He's well, you know what? As we're saying that, I don't think he's going to last that long. He's kind of like, since the Senior Bowl, where he was higher, he was 48th on the consensus board. He's 6'3", 318 pounds. He's 23. He turns 24 in July. So he is one of those interior defensive linemen that is a little bit older. I wrote down, if a cinder block was a human being, that's Lee Hunter.
I like that.
That's he just doesn't move, and he doesn't get moved.
Yeah,
that's the crazy thing.
And look, his initial quick step is what kind of got tracked a little bit, Senior Bowl and at the Combine, which is maybe why he slides a little bit. But overall, again, I think these 2 words are important for what the Giants have lacked and what they need in terms of stopping the run. Space eater. Space eater. Space eater. Again, that is what this team needs more than anything on that interior.
You know, and what I even like about Lee Hunter, too, is sometimes you see a lot of defensive tackles that, you know, they don't have a lot of production when it comes to negative plays. You know, even though I think Lee Hunter provides some upside as a pass rusher, and I'm putting emphasis on some, he has 31 tackles for loss over his last 3 seasons. He spent 2023 and 2024 with UCF, shout out intern Julian, and then 10.5 tackles for loss with Texas Tech in 2025. I mean, heavy hands. His hands aren't that big, but his hands are just so heavy. He bench presses his linemen. He complements heavy hands, Shaun, with quick hands as well, where I think he'll use quick swims at the snap to get easy wins as linemen are lunging because they're expecting Lee Hunter to be just like this force. They're expecting him to bring strength. So then there's going to be times where Lee Hunter will kind of mix it up. He'll swim, he'll use quick hands, and then he'll get linemen lunging, and then that's how he wins, and that's how he eats space as well. He's a two-gapper, real two-gapper. I think it's rare to see him moved off of the spot, can anchor down against those double teams. Average arm length, but an above-average wingspan. He is a detail-oriented player. Like, he's not just winging it. He's not just, I'm big, I'm strong. Like, I think he really cares about his craft.
Which is important with John Harbaugh and everything he said.
Yes.
Which is, again, is a theme. I'm glad you mentioned that.
And he did set a single-game college football playoff record with 6 tackles from a 0-1 tech alignment in the first round of the college football playoff.
And that's just said. Everybody who is unfamiliar with Texas Tech might think offensive football. They were such a defensive-driven power this year in the Big 12, and every time you put on a Texas Tech game, Lee Hunter completely popped on that front.
Yeah, so I really like Lee Hunter. Was a player that was down in Mobile, Alabama. You're going to hear me say that a ton.
And let's be real, Justin. For all the Giants' weaknesses, if they break camp and it's Dexter Lawrence, Lee Hunter, Darius Alexander, Roy Robertson, Harris, like then you start to feel much better about that group. Now, again, you're asking Alexander and Hunter to prove themselves, but the arrow is pointed back up on this defensive tackle group.
I'd be wondering how they would make Dexter Lawrence and Lee Hunter fit for when it comes to a nose tackle. You know, how are you going to get them on the field at the same time, and how are you both going to make them very effective? But I mean, Lee Hunter and Dexter Lawrence next to each other on first down and second down.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna find a way to make that work.
And can we be honest too? It's not just about the here and now. By the time Lee Hunter is due for a second contract in 4 years, if he's everything you dreamed of, what's Dexter Lawrence at that stage of his career?
Yeah, right. All right, I took Caleb Banks. I stayed at pick 37. I did no trades in my mock draft because I just wanted to see how this went. And again, it is another reminder of, oh my God, I hate not having a third-round pick. But I'm glad it got us Jackson Dart. But we're a 4-win football team with 2 picks inside the top 100. Ugh. I took Caleb Banks with the 37th pick in the second round, defensive lineman from Florida. He has a consensus ranking of 36th. I do not think he is going to last that long, Shaun. Now, the context around Caleb Banks, he was hurt basically all year.
Yep, and that's part of what makes him polarizing.
He suffered a broken foot at the combine. That's going to sideline him until June. So he had a foot injury this year. He broke his foot at the combine. The injury happened the night before his on-field testing. He performed a partial workout without knowing the extent of his injury, per Dane Brugler. The fracture of the 4th metatarsal was surgically repaired by Dr. Waldrop on March 9th. NFL teams have been informed. Shaun, he ran a 5.05 40-yard dash, which was like in the 70th percentile with a broken foot.
Yeah, I mean, like a freak.
He's
a freak.
The dude is an athletic freak. His height is in the 96th percentile. His weight is in the 89th percentile. His arm length is in the 95th percentile.
He's a mutant. He's a walking mutant.
His hand size is in the 97th percentile. His wingspan is in the 99th percentile. I am pretty sure, and I was watching a short by Todd McShay, the longest wingspan for a defensive lineman at the combine since they started measuring them in 1999.
He's incredible.
He's a freak.
But you're also not mentioning the fatal flaw in Caleb Banks, besides the fact that he's always hurt.
Okay, what's the fatal flaw?
He struggles to tackle. He can't bring guys down to the ground. The Giants' defense, Justin, and this is why I try to stay away from Caleb Banks. And he might look. You could argue two things with the tackling. Either he could get that in the NFL, coach the hell into him, and you work with those raw traits. And I totally could hear that argument. The other part of this is the Giants miss enough tackles stopping the run.
Yeah.
Am I going to, especially in this draft, Justin, I already hate your draft. If you're taking the running back that enough people are going to disagree with, and then you're not able to make a trade for the 3rd round pick, my second pick is going to be a guy with multiple injuries who also can't tackle despite the fact that he's a freak.
I know, but dude,
I walk away hating that first 2 days. Now, the upside is you could have gotten a steal of the draft in Caleb Banks. But the downside is it could be the biggest bust in terms of a 2nd round pick.
But dude, he plays like a first rounder. He plays like a dominant player.
But tackling's a big part of this.
He is bigger. He is stronger. He is more athletic than the guys around him. But he still has like some good polish and technique to his game. If you want to compare him to another big Florida defensive lineman, a guy that I liked a couple years ago, Gervon Dexter, but he just couldn't get out of his stance and he was so sloppy. But I was like, that the Gervon Dexter was a dude that you just take a chance on his traits. Caleb Banks I don't think Caleb Banks is a take a chance on his traits because of his play. If you want to take a chance on his traits because of his injury history,
yeah.
Okay, sure, different conversation. But I think he has polish and technique to his game as well. His first step off the line is good, so he's not like Gervon Dexter in that way. And just because he's big and he's tall, he still does not play too high. I think he keeps really good leverage. I have not liked hearing this. I have not heard anybody directly say that Caleb Banks takes plays off and that he maybe has motor issues. But what I have heard people say is when he's locked in and motivated, he's really good. Why do people feel the need to say when he's locked in and when he's motivated, he's really good? Is that them saying that this guy takes plays off and that he has motor issues and then he has effort questions without saying that he has effort questions? He should not be available at pick 37. And in a way, if he is available in the second round when the Giants pick, I am asking questions of what's wrong. Are the medicals a question? Does this guy legitimately have character concerns? But I almost don't even care about, especially the character stuff. I almost don't even care about that for defensive linemen because go and get after it, man.
Yeah. No, listen, I totally get it. Here's the other thing I would sway back towards taking him. I know I'm kind of doing the devil and the angel on the shoulder here of what I don't like versus what I like, which is funny. I feel like I've wrote more negative than you have to the first two picks. I like to ask myself as we move forward in the Harbaugh era, WWED, and not erectile dysfunction like him.
Sure.
What would the Eagles do? And Caleb Banks is such an Eagles pick, isn't he?
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Yes.
So that sways me back in the other direction. Are the Giants going to graduate to that point where you're like, oh, man, they really took a swing on a guy whose value is insane for where he's fallen?
Yeah, I almost wanted to talk about Caleb Banks and take him in this mock draft because I do want to challenge myself for like the remainder of this month to take different players. And I like the fact that we, in each of these episodes, we will like, all right, well, last week I took this player. 2 weeks ago, I took this player. So I kind of wanted to take Caleb Banks now because guy in Mobile, that was the best player down there. Like he was motivated down in Mobile. He was healthy. Or at least we thought.
Would think for whatever.
Think.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is a Shaun Morash spin zone. The fact that he's playing on broken feet and effed up feet, and he's still kicking ass and running fast and doing all this, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
That's something you would say if you were in the Caleb Banks camp. So,
or, maybe he shouldn't have run at the combine and saved the tread on the tires like Cam Scatterboot did. No,
but he's an unreal athlete, and I think he has polish to his game. He's really strong, and he should not be available at pick 37. And if he is, then I think if the medicals check out, and this is one of the more difficult things about the NFL draft, it's honestly the thing that bothers me the most. Literally the most vital information about prospects and the reason why you should take a player and the reason why you shouldn't take a player, we have zero access to. We have zero access to talking to these dudes and knowing what they're about and knowing their work ethic. And we also have zero information about when it comes to medical stuff. So literally the most important things that define whether you should take a player or not, we'll sit here and we'll debate it for an entire month, but we have zero information.
Which is why, again, we're doing a mock draft. You're going to read a ton of mock drafts. The reason you're here is because it's mock draft season. It's also why we get surprised and mock drafts get ripped up every year because there's just simple access the rest of us don't have where people start falling and people rise and it happens, which is going to get me to my third round pick.
Yes. But I do want to say before you get to the third round pick, what I did is I wanted to see what the most common picks were at pick 37 for the Giants, according to mock drafts that are out there right now.
Smart. Okay.
Chase Basantes, guard from Texas A&M, was the most common. Your guy, Casey Concepcion, wide receiver from Texas A&M, was the second. And then Maxi Hanachur, offensive tackle, was third.
Okay. I mean, I'm fine with all of those guys. And again, the reason we're all doing this off the basis of Jeremiyah Love and where we go from here. I think if you don't invest in trench work in the first round, then again, I'm fine. Best player available. I have a hard time then turning around with a running back in the first round, taking a wide receiver in the second round.
Yeah. All right, so Shaun, you have a third round pick. You have round 3, pick 83. Who are you going with?
Okay, this is where I pull the what would the Eagles do card. So we've made this trade. We've moved to the third round. And where you gave me a Caleb Banks in round 2, I'm going to give you, I think, the offensive version of Caleb Banks in terms of combining injury towards like puzzling. Where do you put him? And that's Chris Bell, who was a semifinalist Biletnikoff 2025, ends up tearing his ACL at the end of the year versus SMU, which has seemingly killed his stock. Look, when you're taking in the first round, high second round, you want guys that can be impactful players right away. It's going to take Chris Bell a little bit to get going here. But Justin, if you create a third round pick and you have this need at wide receiver, Chris Bell presents inside and outside versatility for an offense. As we said, his production, where you just sort of kind of watched it grow. 2022, all right, seven catches. It's, he's just coming into college football. He gets older and older. It builds up. 2024, he starts racking it up. He starts to come on board. In 2025, he absolutely explodes. 72 catches, 917, 6 touchdowns, then tears his ACL in that game versus SMU. 6 foot and an inch, or almost 2 inches at this point. He is 222 pounds. So again, not super light, not super heavy, which creates that inside-outside versatility. I think Chris Bell, I know we already have Malik Neighbors coming off a torn ACL, but if I create that third-round pick, this is where I think you get that insane value of a third-rounder that could have been a first-rounder, and also is not a one-trick pony the way Jalen Hyatt was as a third-round pick as well, can kind of run all the routes. I'm a big Chris Bell guy, and I think in the third round, if you look at a guy like that, that could have been a back end of the first round. If he didn't tear his ACL, I'm all in on that in the third, Justin.
Yeah, I think the range.
And he could go higher. He could go, obviously, I understand that. And I don't mean to interrupt, but there is plenty of mocks now where he's falling to the third.
The wide range of opinions on Chris Bell certainly is there. I mean, he has a consensus ranking of 51. You got him with pick 83. And in the mock draft that I did, Shaun, we did it on the same site. The mock draft that I did, he went 36 to the Raiders.
Which is crazy. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And then I wanted to make sure there was no glitch either. Matt Miller of ESPN, this is what I'm going to get to what happens to me in round 4 and on, because then I start reading the Matt Miller stuff after I'm doing this mock draft simulator to see what the hell happened. And maybe they're throwing that in with the NFL draft database. Matt Miller had him falling to the third round now too.
Yeah.
So this is starting to gain steam. I know that there might be somebody listening going, what the hell are you talking about? I can only go based off of what's happening here. And Chris Bell fell in the third round.
Yeah, Chris Bell, 6'2", 220 pounds. Mediocre production and efficiency over the last 2 years. A 1.79 yards per route run in his 2 seasons as a starter. Yeah. Less than 2 yards per route run is not an area that I love to be living in. Now, his route tree is limited. Ran a go, post, or stop on 64.3% of his routes last year. And because his change of direction is not that great, I think he can accelerate pretty quickly, especially after the catch. I think he's fast. I think he's super athletic, and I'm going to get to that. But because of his overall change of direction isn't that great, and that's, when I see 6'2", 220, I get a little like yeesh worried.
I know.
I think overall he needs to improve route efficiency and eliminate wasted steps. Here's the good thing, Shaun.
I know, but I did make that Jalen Hyatt compare. Like, Jalen Hyatt to me is just go. I think you're going to be able to run a lot of drags and everything else here in the NFL level with Bell.
I think Bell is different than Hyatt. I think Bell offers way more after the catch than Hyatt does too. But here's the good things about Chris Bell. 3.4 average yards of separation on hitch routes last year. That's the third highest among 2026 wide receivers. 3 yards of average separation on go routes last year. That's the highest among the 2026 wide receivers. 60% career contested catch rate. It's pretty damn good. 21 for 35. I think his ball tracking and adjustment skills are good. Open field burst, and this is where the acceleration comes in. It's different between like change of direction. I'm surprised, like I do have that note of he struggles with change of direction, but those hitch routes on the sideline, which typically kind of require you to really stop your momentum and then kind of go to the sideline and turn your head. So I'm surprised to see that that's like an area I know that that's an area of struggle for him, but then I'm surprised to see that stat of how many yards of separation on hitch routes that he did have last year. But man, like if he gets like a quick slant and if he gets any kind of separation, the dude can fly. And being 6'2", 220, which I felt like, back in 2007, 2008, 2011, I felt like that was the average size for a wide receiver. Now I feel like that's a big dude. That's a big dude running around there. But he has the speed and acceleration of a guy that is 6 foot, 195 pounds. That's the thing.
And before you continue, where did the same database had him going where in the second round?
The same mock draft website in my mock draft. When I took Caleb Banks 37th, this had Chris Bell going 36 to the Raiders.
How crazy is that? That is
Very
such
crazy.
a swing.
Very crazy.
Well,
very crazy.
I guess this kind of shows you all the stuff all over the place. So anyway, carry on. That's just crazy to me.
I also like a mock draft simulator that I like a mock draft doing different things at different times anyway. So that's basically it. A real potential weapon after the catch, a real potential weapon when it comes to creating some big plays. And I think doing what you would want your wide receiver to kind of do. He mainly won in the short part of the field at Louisville. When you think that this guy has the billing, when you see the contested catch numbers, he kind of has the billings as a contested catch deep guy. And then that's kind of it. But that wasn't really what Chris Bell's role was at Louisville, because it was a lot of the short stuff. So I think in an offense that prioritizes getting the ball to your receivers in different ways and better quarterback play, I do think Chris Bell could be better. But I just have questions on the route tree was limited to begin with at Louisville. And that size, I am just always a little hesitant to begin with now in the NFL. I almost have PTSD unless you're there's been a few exceptions over the years, Nico Collins was an exception to this. Unless you can fully prove that you are a route running technician at that size, I'm a little hesitant. But at this range for Chris Bell to take a chance on an athlete like that, I don't think I would be too upset.
Exactly. All right.
So now we're both at 105, correct?
Yes. And this is where it both gets down and dirty, interesting, and what the hell happens on day 3.
But before I get to 105, and I struggled with this pick. I wound up loving the player, but I struggled with the pick because of the guys that were available I didn't love. But before I get to that, I want to talk to you about the Fanatics Sportsbook, because football season might be over for now, but there's still plenty of ways to get on the action all year long with the Fanatics Sportsbook. Every time you place a bet, you're earning FanCash, up to 10% back on your bets, win or lose. And unlike points that expire, FanCash is the true currency of sport. You can use it on official team gear and collectibles on Fanatics.com, your next bet or profit boost, and even exclusive experience across the world of Fanatics. Plus, Fanatics is the home of the fair play injury protection. If your player goes down with an injury in the first half, your bet gets refunded. And if it's part of a parlay, that leg is voided and the rest of your parlay plays on. That sounds pretty damn good to me. Bet, earn, and get more out of every game with Fanatics Sportsbook, because winning, it's different here. All right, Shaun, I'm going to go.
You go. I spoke too much about Chris Bell. Go.
I'm going to go with my 4th round pick, 105th pick of the 2026 NFL draft, of the Jeremiyah Love Giants mock draft. Justin Pennick is selecting Julian Neal, cornerback from Arkansas. He is 23 years old. He was 95th on the consensus board. I got good value. 6'1", 203 pounds. And oh boy, I got me a corner with 32. I got me a corner with 32 and a quarter inch arms. 30-inch arms is like my threshold, Shaun. I don't know if you knew this. You probably knew this just from listening to the show. Mm-hmm. I almost draw a line. If you are a cornerback that has arms that are around 30 inches or especially less than 30 inches, I almost don't think you're going to be a successful NFL player. It's one of the more clearer thresholds to hit physically in the NFL. If you're a corner that has over 30-inch arms, I think you got a shot. Has 2 interceptions the last 2 years, 2 each over the last 2 years, 6 passes defensed in 2024, 10 of them in 2025. He was tied for 16th in the nation in pass breakups with 8 this year. He does attack the ball in the air, and he attacks, I think he's just an attacking player overall. Attacks the ball in the air, attacks off the line with the punch, attacks receivers at the catch point, and after the catch to try and force an incompletion as well. Does a really good job of passing receivers off in zone coverage. A lot of his best plays do come in zone coverage where he comes off a receiver and attacks the ball in the air of a different area. Don't cover the grass, but cover the guys in your grass. Has a good knack of staying in the receiver's back hip pocket, patient and quick feet at the line. Does have press experience. I think overall that Julian Neal is a good fit for Denard Wilson because Denard Wilson is going to ask his guys to play a lot of press.
Yeah.
And he's not just going to ask them to play press and then run cover one and run man coverage. He's going to ask them, you're going to run cover three, you're going to run cover four, you're going to do a couple different things, but you're still going to be physical at the line. Only 7% missed tackle rate in 2025, 4 missed tackles this year, 4 penalties. Not too bad. Instinctive against the run and plays physical as well. Really uses his long arms to an advantage against the run as well. And again, I think he'd be a really good fit with Denard Wilson with his press experience, with his long arms, and with his physicality overall.
Okay, so I find this interesting from you because this is the first time I'm going to tell you out of the 4th round now that we've gotten to that Julian Neal was available to me in my mock draft simulator when I did this. And I broke a tie at the same position, which we will get to in a moment. I have one major issue with Julian Neal from watching him at Arkansas. And again, I have to do a little more deep digging on this. I have, and I'll openly admit, and Giant fans can relate, I have some serious scars when it comes to Deonte Banks. And I understand that this is a 4th-round pick and not a 1st-round pick. But from this standpoint, tracking the ball and playing the ball in the air. And I think Julian Neal's biggest flaw to me is getting his head around on footballs and going up and do. Now, again, 4th round, it's traits. This is way different than taking a player in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round. And I totally understand that. But to me, I can't have 2 cornerbacks on this team that can't get their head around on the football. I just can't. And you want to tell me that he will be able to learn that and have it coached into him a little more? I find that the cornerback position in the NFL, that feels like something either you got it or you don't. There are other traits that you could teach a cornerback. Man, if you've spent your whole life playing corner, and this is also, I mean, it took him basically to his 4th, 5th year here to kind of bloom at Arkansas and become the player he's gotten to and still didn't acquire that trait on getting his head around on the football. I'm not sure that could be coached into him.
Surprised you saw that he didn't get his head around and locate football. But hey, I mean, we all watch different stuff. So yeah, I watch a lot of the SEC and stuff. That just what jumped out to me with Julian Neal. Yeah.
You want to tell me you saw more of that and tell me, Shaun, you're a fat idiot, you're wrong? I just felt like he struggled at times with that.
And I will say for Julian Neal, this was a player that went down to the Senior Bowl. And same thing with your 4th-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted him to kind of win and dominate the week more, especially considering that I didn't think there were that many awesome wide receivers going down to Mobile, and he did not. So that is why with this 105th pick, like I want to, all right, trust the film, trust your evaluation, trust what you're seeing, blah, blah, blah. And don't just go off of one week of practice, right? But this was the pick where I tried to go something different, go down a different route.
Yeah.
Because I didn't just want to side with the player that I kind of knew. So tell me about your 105th pick, and you said you went with the same position.
I went cornerback as well, and I went with Daylen Everette, the corner out of Georgia, who, I mean, just close your eyes, you're going to picture Kirk Herbstreit saying his name. Why? Because he makes plays in big games. And I think that's what's separated. Now, you want to talk about the 30-inch arms, 31 7/8-inch arms. So he passes your threshold, 6'1", 196. I guess you want to say a little lighter. He does have inside, outside. He does train. I think that there's plenty of scouts who will say that he'll play more nickel. But again, we heard that with Cordell Flott, and then Cordell Flott ends up being totally fine on the outside, ironically, as well, a big conference player. Everett, a little older, started 41 games at Georgia. He can play a little thicker, the two, which is why I like him on the boundary. Now, I think sometimes he gets a little lackadaisical with balls in front of him in terms of playing the football like that. So this isn't me dunking on the Julian Neal going, my pick's better than yours. Of course, there's a reason Daylen Everette from Georgia's on the board here in the 4th round. He's not without flaws. But, Justin, this is just going to be really simple and why I like a Daylen Everette. He's got big game balls. He's got big game balls. In back-to-back years in the SEC championship game, Daylen Everette made a game-changing interception. That stands out to me. He is, for that kind of level, playing in the SEC against those wide receivers, he makes plays. And to have those plays I'm hoping the Giants kind of accelerate, make big games going forward. But if I'm kind of breaking ties here in the 4th round and understand that these guys are probably all semi-projects, but you hope that you could turn a 4th rounder into a starter, I want to know that whatever traits I'm working on that you need to get better, that I know that when you're ready to play, you rise to the moment. So it might sound like a very dumbed down, simple approach, But that's where it came down to me, ironically enough, between a Neal and an Everette. I know he can make big plays, and I'll work with that other stuff. I might find him to be a pain in the ass in terms of what he's given up in front of him, but I think he'll rise to the moment, and I think turnovers are something this Giant team needs to create.
And the main difference, too, I think, Everette, way more traits friendly than Neal. There's one position that I'm willing to consider RAS score, and I think that's actually helpful to use, and it is cornerback. 9.88 RAS score for Everette, a 4.38 40, which is wicked fast. Wicked fast. Second fastest time at the combine, I believe, among cornerbacks. So if there's one position, long, we're taller than 6 foot. We have arms that are almost 32 inches, and we're running a 40 wicked fast. If there's one position that I kind of want to bet on those traits for, especially now that we're in round 4 and we're in the early part of day 3, and we got a corner that has a lot of SEC experience. We're playing over 2,400 career snaps, 100%.
Yes,
all for it,
no doubt. And he's had some issues tackling an open field, too, which does hurt his case and which tumbles him down at the 4th.
Yeah, I did see a 8.5 missed tackle rate, and then PFF does overestimate their missed tackle rate compared to like a Pro Football Reference. But 2024, 20.7% missed tackle rate. No. He did bring it down in 2025 to 8.5, which is pretty good. Yeah,
will drive you nuts, though. That's the kind of stuff that'll drive you nuts.
Yeah.
But again, we're in day 3. You know. This is not the first round.
All right, Shaun, we're going to move to the 5th round. And I got to tell you what, this may be... Nope, we're not... Yeah, I'm moving to the 5th round. 100%. Giants have the 145th pick in the draft. Do you all have the 145th pick, a part of your trade downs?
Yes, I only got rid of one of the 6th rounders.
Okay.
I got rid of pick 193. I do have 145 here.
Okay. 5th round, 145th pick. I am going with Trey Zuhn from Texas A&M, tackle / center.
Good pick.
23 and a half years old, 133rd on the consensus board. I got good value. Oh, by the way, Everette was 111th on the consensus board, so Shaun also got good value. But Zuhn, man, if as a tackle, here are his percentiles. 82nd percentile weight, 73rd percentile arm length, 90th percentile wingspan, and then height obviously at 6'6" is really good. If he's going to transition to the inside, which he is going to do at the NFL level, he already was taking snaps at center at the Senior Bowl. I think maybe even there's a world where he can be a guard. And he also was a center for 126 snaps at Texas A&M in 2025. He would sometimes flip in the middle of the game and then rotate there. Overall, a ton of experience, 2-time captain. But if those are his kind of like percentiles of length as a tackle, guys that typically struggle with length and shorter arms like that, and he transitions to the inside, that's going to be awesome for a guy like this. 37 games started from 2022 to 2024 for the Aggies. He earned all SEC 13 during the 2024 season. He's like I said, he's a 2-time captain. He's going to turn 24 during his rookie season. I think the main thing with Trey Zuhn, short area quickness. He's a very deliberate mover. He's intentional with how he moves. He plays with solid technique, with the ability to process. Led all offensive linemen at the combine with 33 bench press reps. And I think that's significant because this isn't a dude just with short arms that's been bench pressing a ton. He's got the arm length, and he's still able to put up the big number like that. Steady player on the interior, going to be on the interior with a ton of experience, a leadership background, and a technician who I believe moves well.
Yeah, I think he's actually going to end up ultimately being a center in the NFL, which, again, this could also swing for perfect need for the Giants once John Harbaugh figures out what the hell he thinks of JMS this year, and we kind of, go through this. But Justin, I think this is great value. I think this is a great pick. And again, he can get out in space on all the pulls and everything you want to do and run some of that trap stuff if the Giants get real creative in terms of running the football with Patrick Ricard. I love this pick. I think this is a guy who absolutely in round 5 can transition and be a starter by year 2.
Who do you got?
Okay, Justin. I similar mindset as you. If you're taking Jeremiyah Love number 2, and you go through, and I have a wide receiver in round 3, I have a D tackle that's needed, I have a corner off the board, you know what we're all screaming at the TVs for on that Saturday afternoon, similar to what you just did. It's time to start addressing the offensive line. While watching Jeremiyah Love, I kept coming back to something. Who is this Schrauth guy? He looks pretty good. He looks pretty good opening up space. So I'm bringing in Jeremiyah Love's teammate and team captain from Notre Dame, which I think is important, right? We go back to the Giants love team captains, guy who loves football, Billy Schrauth. He is a 2-year starting right guard for Notre Dame, played some left guard as well, a 4-star recruit in the 2022 class. He had 19 career games at left guard, which is where he transitioned back. Again, has a season-ending knee injury, which I think was an MCL this year, which doesn't, help his case. But again, when watching Jeremiyah Love run plays, Billy Schrauth is oftentimes the one opening up a lot of those lanes. So ironically enough, I found him by watching Jeremiyah Love.
Yeah.
And look, let's be real. Let's simplify this and let's dumb this down for the dum-dums. By dum-dums, I mean guys like me. Notre Dame offensive lineman, 5th round, open up a lot of holes for the running back you're investing in. I think this makes sense. Again, he's not without flaws. This is why he's available in the 5th round, but I think he could be ultimately an anchor interior player playing on either guard spot for the Giants as a starter in the NFL.
Yeah, now that we're at day 3, guys, I looked at him.
I'm looking for leadership. I'm looking for big school, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
watched a cut up of him, and it was a lot of fun for sure. All right, Shaun, let's move on to the 6th round. I'm going to be honest. The guy that I selected here is my favorite pick in the entire draft that I made.
In the 6th round? Okay.
Yes. And I finally found a non-Senior Bowl player.
All right, let's go.
Jadon Canady, University of Oregon, cornerback / safety. 22 years old, turns 23 in May. He's 176 on the consensus board. Suck it. I got good value again. All my picks have been 10 picks off where they're on the consensus board. 5'11", 181 pounds. He's kind of tiny, but I think he's really good. He's a versatile chess piece with a shit ton of experience. He has over 2,400 snaps played in his career. He was a standout at the East-West Shrine Bowl. I'm addicted to senior all-star games, apparently. 30-inch arms, okay. But I think, so he could be a nickelback. He's not going to be an outside cornerback.
I think he's going to be a safety, to be honest with you.
I was listening to nickelback today. Played a lot of nickelback, and that's where a lot of his kind of production comes. But, Shaun, I agree with you. I think that he can be a safety, even though he has a shit ton of experience in the slot. His 2025 snap alignment was slot 350 snaps, deep 128, and the box he was in 81 snaps. So he has more experience as a slot corner, but I feel like a lot of his best plays come when he's playing safety. I think he's a smart, instinctual player. He plays bigger than his size, but he's a feisty, competitive player who plays fast and even ran like a 4.4. Yeah. I thought that, I was a little worried that, this is going to have to be a guy we're going to have to defend his 40 time. You're not really going to have to defend the 40 time when it's around a 4.4, especially for a safety. I think that's pretty damn good. A great combination of advanced stats, and it meets the eye test of performance. Lowest passer rating allowed amongst 2026 NFL draft corners. Jadon Canady is 4th. Fewest yards per catch allowed, he's number 1. Fewest yards allowed per coverage snap among Big Ten cornerbacks, he's number 1. So a player that has the stats to back it up. I think he plays bigger than his size indicates, and I think he has the smarts to play safety and to live and kind of maybe even survive there. But also he has the versatility where sometimes you do need to put your safeties in the slot if they're playing, especially if they're playing deep and they're really allowing a lot of cushion because it's just the way that the cover you're kind of lining up. I think he can even do that too. He has that versatility. It's my favorite find out of everybody that I've kind of found today.
And look, if you get a guy who eventually plays safety in the NFL in the 6th round, it's insane value. But Justin, the reason I like this pick for you, it fits the theme of John Harbaugh's tier 2 free agents in terms of he loves the special teams guys. And I think this just screams a guy who's going to get down there on punt coverage and kick coverage right away in year 1 and how he's going to earn a spot on a team. And that's the kind of thing John Harbaugh values.
Who you got?
Okay. So I'm double dipping. I went with Schrauth on the offensive line. I'm coming right back at it. I'm going with Fernando Carmona, the center out of Arkansas. Now, look, I have to do a little more tape deep dive as we were going through the mock draft simulator. I got to be honest with you. I was biased towards I want to double dip in interior offensive line play. But I'm going to read you an overview, plagiarize or whatever. This is from Lance Zierlein. And you tell me when John Harbaugh tells you he wants like aggressive guys that love football, listen to this overview. Carmona is a combative lineman who brings energy to the locker room and an edge to the field. He carries a burly build. He does have short arms. He made the move to guard in 2025 after some left tackle. People think he will be a center, though, in the NFL. He has some of that. He's tough and plays with maximum effort. He can win alley fights, but will lose at least as many due to a lack of body control and inconsistent hands. Yeah. He needs technical improvement. Again, that's something that can be coached into. But he has a tackle background in the SEC with the flip to guard. People think he could play center. He has a head start in pass pro. He appears to be, one of those backup versatile offensive linemen. But I do like his versatility and the alley fight. He's like a guy that brings up locker room energy. Again, full disclosure, I got to do more of a deep dive in watching the film, but we're in the 6th round here, and I'm looking for traits. And I think that's the kind of trait and personality that a John Harbaugh will like, and I'm throwing a dart, adding more interior offensive linemen on day 3.
I think Bo Limmer was more athletic, but he wears the same number as Bo Limmer, and obviously plays at the same school. But yeah, I mean, almost does kind of remind me of a guy that does play a little bit wild. But you got to work on some technique, a little bit of a raw player. But yeah, I'm all for it. Day 3.
There we go. It's day 3, baby. And now we're down to you have 2 more picks. I have 1 more pick.
I have 2 more picks.
Okay. Right.
192nd pick of the NFL draft in the 6th round. I am taking J.C. Davis from the University of Illinois. The one thing I don't like about the lineman that I'm taking in my draft, I'm doing the whole, well, they play tackle, but I'm just going to kick him inside. Yeah. I don't love always doing that, but I will say for the 2 guys that I am taking, like they're going to play on the inside. He's 22 and he's turning 23 in October. He's 165th on the consensus board. I'm getting good value again. He's 6'4", 335 pounds. Arm length, wingspan, and hand size is already good for a tackle, and it gets to a great level for an interior player. He is not going to be like, I've even seen like people online and doing like some quick searches. What are people saying about JC Davis? They're talking about him as a tackle, and I get it. He has the experience as a tackle, but if there is any kind of consensus or somewhat debate of JC Davis, whether he's going to line up as a tackle or an interior player, if there's an NFL team that puts him at tackle, I think he's going to be bad. I think he's going to get beat with athleticism. He does not have quick feet. I think he can be an athletic player, but I just do not think the footwork or the quick feet for tackle, he's going to get his ass kicked with players that are quick and fast, especially coming off the edge. But I think that can be kind of wiped away on the interior, knowing that he really can. This is a player that really does a nice job of run blocking, and he's a better and exciting run blocker than he is as a pass blocker. He can really lean on dudes and move up to the secondary level. I think he already started lining up as a guard at the Senior Bowl, and he started to hold up on his own. So I'm taking a chance on a guy in day 3, a guy that has some high-end traits and a little bit athletic, stronger, more of a run blocker. J.C. Davis, welcome to the Giants.
Is that your 2nd or 3rd offensive lineman?
This is my 2nd.
2nd. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was your 3rd. Okay, so similar philosophy to what I've had so far, which is yes. I'm investing here.
Yes.
Okay, Justin, I'm just going to whip it right back to me here. I did the same thing, right? I have 2 offensive linemen off the board. I'm double dipping in another position. I took Lee Hunter in round 2. I'm going like that. Hey, can we find that next DJ Davidson, Jordan Riley, but a guy maybe a little better? I'm going to Arkansas again. We're all over Arkansas football. I'm taking defensive tackle Cameron Ball. Look, he's a defensive tackle in the 6th round. There's a reason he's there. He can be a little slow in turning around when a defender gets past him, doesn't, quote, turn the corner enough. But he is somebody that, with better hand technique, I think has an initial good, quick first step, eats space as well. 33-inch arms, Cameron Ball. Let me get his weight back up here, too. I just had it in front of me. He is... I
think you just drafted Jordan Riley. He's 6'7".
Yeah, exactly.
You just drafted Jordan Riley.
He's very tall. He's Jordan Riley. But again, I want to take a guy, maybe he starts the year on the practice squad, but I'm throwing flyers at interior defensive and offensive linemen because that's where the Giants need to develop this roster.
326 pounds. ESPN, he's listed at 6'5". There are other places where he's listed at 6'7". What are you doing?
Oh, he's a mammoth dude with 33-inch arms, oddly, kind of weirdly disproportionate, but either way. Arkansas, too. We're all over these Arkansas guys.
Oh, my God. Wait. Everybody's lying. At the combine, he was 6'3", 310.
I did not see that. Full disclosure.
I'm looking at his RAS, which updated March 29th. So everybody lied.
Everybody lied about his size.
He is not. You know what? Take it back. He's not Jordan Riley.
He's a shorter Jordan Riley. How about that?
All right, my final pick.
It's a 6th round, baby. Do what you got.
My final pick. I'm taking the best player down in Mobile, Tyren Montgomery. 210th on the consensus board. I'm taking him 193rd. It's the first pick that I didn't get good value. Tyren Montgomery is going to be a slot wide receiver from John Carroll. I'm taking the best player from Mobile, and I'm moving on. I mean, he can go up and get it if he's got to. And he just got open all week with quickness. And against corners, who I liked. Like, there were a good amount of corners, like Chris Johnson and Julian Neal. Everett was down there, too. Davison, I'm going to fuck up this guy's name. Davison Igabonsoon. That's not how you say his last name. He's from Ohio State. He's from Union, New Jersey. And like Tyren Montgomery got the best out of all of those guys down there. Chandler Rivers from Duke was down there too, who's going to be seen as like a slot corner that people really like. Tyren Montgomery literally got the best out of all of them, and the dude wasn't even invited to the combine. What the hell is that? So
this is a Belichick pick, a very Belichickian pick.
He's not white.
But still, the John Carroll stuff, if you looked up, if Tyren Montgomery was white, he played lacrosse and Belichick loved him.
He would somehow transfer to UNC.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's a Belichick. All right.
What do you got as your last pick?
I don't. I traded it.
Oh, you traded it. We're done.
We're done.
We're done. I'll tell you what I don't like about mine. I had an opportunity. I had some opportunities to – I want to get this right. Bryce Betcher, I had an opportunity to get him a couple times. Like, I didn't draft a linebacker.
That's my other flaw. Yep.
I'm going into the season with Jermaine Edmonds and Micah McFadden as my lead 2 linebackers.
Dude, that is my biggest thing I hate about my draft as well. But that's the way the board fell.
Let's see. When did Jacob Rodriguez was taken in my mock draft at pick 46.
I could have taken him at 37 and I traded back. But that's a decision you have to make. This is all why when we take Jeremiyah Love at 5 and you debate it, all of these things need to be taken into an account.
I like Kyle Lewis as well as a linebacker. He was taken 99th in my mock draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers, which, man, I will say I really like Kyle Lewis. He's 77th on the consensus board. Man, that's a little high. So, like, even Bryce Betcher, one of the reasons why I continued to kind of pass on him is more or less day 3. He's a leader. I think he has special teams. Like, he has a background that could fit special teams, but traits aren't there. He is a little bit slower. Like, you're taking him, like, I believe in your brain and I believe in your competitive spirit to be a good NFL player, which we see that all the time with linebackers. All the time with linebackers, the guys that shouldn't be good, they are good because they're smart and they can process. So Bryce Betcher was like the one guy in terms of what do the Giants need that was in the back of my brain. Bryce Betcher was the guy that was falling and that was kind of available in the string of picks where the Giants kind of had picks that I let kind of pass. So,
yeah, my biggest need is linebacker. But again, you have to make. To me, I'm reinvesting in D tackle and O line once I make that decision at running back. And overall, dude, I'm feel great about the D tackle group going forward if you're in my draft. And also the Chris Bell pick in round 3 allows me at the end of the year, if Austin and Mooney have really good years, I feel like it's less of a need at wide receiver. And if we really want to play that Harbaugh, as Dunleavy brought up to you, comp pick game, and those guys do have good years and you can bring Chris Bell along slower, you probably feel better about the wide receiver room in 2027 while potentially getting more assets at the end of the year.
All right, let us know who had the best mock draft. I think people are going to say you had a better mock draft than me.
You think so?
I think people
because of the trade.
Well, the trade, and also I think people are going to say Everett is better than Julian Neal. Which honestly, as you were talking about it, and as I was thinking about it, especially with the 40 and the athletic profile, I think I may even lean that way. I think people are going to say you had the better draft than me.
Well, Justin, the good news is we have a couple more weeks of doing these where you could beat me, buddy.
I know. Lee Hunter is more reliable than Caleb Banks, who's a big question mark. Caleb Banks has a higher ceiling. Let us know who had the better mock draft. And also, I would like for you to participate in this exercise too. If you want to leave a comment of doing a Jeremiyah Love Giants mock draft, who do you pick? I would love to see those comments too. So, all right, we will see you next week. Let's go Giants. Happy draft month. Happy mock draft season. We'll see you next week.
It starts today. Let's go Giants! We woo!